how to be rich. Now, let me set your hearts at ease, right? This is not the beginning of a fundraising campaign. We're not going to ask you to put your hands into your pocket or write checks or anything like that. But the gospel text for today and for next week, in each case in different ways, carries very strong undertones, in fact, overtones really at points, of wealth and of riches. And it got me to thinking as I was reflecting on these passages that are presenting themselves to us over the next 2 weeks, how often we frame the question of riches and of wealth in this way: how to get rich, right? Especially in some cases, how to get rich quick. How to make as much as possible for as little as possible, because that seems to be our human predicament. That seems to be our default approach. In fact, if you did a Google search, and let's be honest about that, right? Google has become the primary reference point for most of us. If you did a Google search for how to get rich, you're confronted with 7.75 billion results in 0.59 seconds, right? At least that was the search results when I did a Google search this past week. Of course, it'll change with your internet connection, etc. But that's the way we tend to frame the question, and Google comes up with all of these results because that's the way we normally ask it. How can we get rich? How can we get more? How can we accumulate more? How can we become more wealthy? So I want to reframe the question over the next 2 weeks and ask instead, how are we to be rich? Because if we're honest with ourselves and with one another, we recognize the fact in our quiet moments that riches and wealth can be measured in so many different ways. They're not necessarily monetary. It doesn't necessarily come down to our bank balance or the bottom line at the end of the month. I'm reminded of a story that Alistairs is fond of telling. And yes, I know, and if you see me looking a little bit more pensive and less energetic than usual, it's because there's a big empty void here this Sunday. But Alistairs is fond of telling a story of an encounter he had during his days in Ashawi, where a colleague minister saw a picture of his children and replied to him saying, "You are rich." And that, friends, is an illustration of the fact that each of us, in our own way, are rich. So the question should be framed then in this way: how are we to be rich? How are we to be rich in a way that honors God and the claim of the gospel upon our lives? So with these things in mind, we turn our attention to Luke chapter 16, verses 1 through 13.